This is the WRM V11, which is the successor to one of the best Moyu cubes of all time. With an incredible tensioning system and newly updated silky turning, I genuinely believe it will be hard for any cube to beat the V11. However, if there was one, it would be this, the X-Man Tornado version 4. With some extra features that Moyu have not yet caught up with, could this be the official best flagship of 2025? Well, to fairly decide which one is better, we will compare them in 8 categories, which each get more important as we go to finally crown a winner. And the first category is the unboxing. So what's important here is how basic both cube unboxings are, with the product being in a storage case and the accessories being packed at the side. For the past 3 years, Moyu haven't really changed the unboxing for the Weilong line of cubes, yet it does the job as well as any other release, including the Tornado, so this round is a draw. But remember, we have only done the least important category, and they will get exponentially more vital as we go through this video. So now we move on to the corner cutting. Looking at the Tornado first, and this really easily cuts through all of the smaller angles, which is important as these are what you are most likely to encounter on actual solves, so it's necessary that these are smooth. Now going a little bit further, and you can see how impressive the forward cutting is, with it even being able to go past line to line, which I would argue is more than most other flagships. Now moving over to the WRM, and it can also do the smaller cuts pretty efficiently with minimal force being required. However, as they get bigger, this cube starts to struggle with it just barely being able to do line to line, and it completely fails on anything further than that. And the reverse is similar, with it being able to do just slightly less than what the Tornado could. This means that X-Man has better corner cutting on their flagship, so the TV4 wins this round. Now going on to stability, and the WRM is designed with much more precise turning in mind, which is why it's able to keep its shape regardless of how fast you are turning. In contrast, the Tornado is much more flexible and therefore is not quite as easy to control as the WRM. This means that Moyu wins this category as we now take a look at the magnet systems. Whilst the Tornado has sort of been keeping level with the WRM so far, this is where X-Man really goes into a league of their own, leaving the rest of the competition far behind. In part, this is due to the recently upgraded magnet adjustment system, which is easier and simpler than ever before, with it being one of the best on the market. Being able to choose one of 5 different strengths gives each user complete control over how they personally want to set up their cube. For me, I prefer the stronger settings as this helps to combat the more flexible nature of this 3x3, but you can do something completely different because they give you the option to do so. However, it doesn't stop there because they also have these 3 magnets in the edges which repel and attract the corner pieces at specific times to help with the auto alignment during solves. I personally find this to be more of a gimmick than an actual feature, yet I appreciate that they have tried something new, as this could have been really good. In comparison, the WRM does not have any extra features like this, and more importantly does not have adjustable magnets, which is very disappointing on a cube which is considered to be relatively expensive. However, what it does have is a 20 magnet ball core. This means that the edge piece feet repel when they are misaligned, which helps to maintain stability and control when turning, as the cube is always trying to hold its shape. But in my opinion, this doesn't even come close to being able to adjust the magnets, which you can do on the Tornado. So that means X-Man wins this round as we now move on to the tensioning systems. To begin, the V4 system is genuinely one of the best on any cube, as you can just use your fingers to change both the elasticity and axis distance by turning clockwise and counterclockwise. So with each of these having 5 different options, it allows you to pick one of 25 setups. And this system, above all else, is just really simple and easy to understand, as the numbers are well displayed and effectively show what setting you are on. Now taking a look at what Moyu has to offer, and this system is pretty similar in how it operates. This is because you turn clockwise and counterclockwise to adjust the 2 settings. However, for this you do require a tool, which is nowhere near as efficient as just using your fingers. In contrast though, the V11 comes with 64 setup options, which is over double what the Tornado has. So I guess this all comes down to whether you prioritize simplicity or a higher number of options. But for me, I think X-Man has the better tensioning system, which means the V4 wins this category. So with the Tornado storming into the lead, we now move on to the 6th round, which is durability. But just before that, if you're enjoying this video, consider subscribing, as over 90% of the people watching haven't subscribed. If you want more quality cubing content like this, then subscribing is the easiest way to achieve that, plus it really helps the channel. So now going back to the durability of these 2 cubes, cubes. And this is a very important round because both brands have struggled in the past with their flagships suffering from broken parts on a number of occasions. Whilst the WRM V11 is fairly new, it hasn't had anywhere near the same level of complaints as its predecessor, which was widely regarded as being pretty poorly built. In contrast, the Tornado has had many instances of broken parts, with one viewer of this channel saying their cube broke within just 3 weeks of owning it. And as you can see, a lot of people have liked this comment, making me think this is a reoccurring issue. So for that reason, the WRM wins this round. However, it is unclear right now whether this is because the V11 hasn't been out long enough for people to have experienced poor quality, or if it has actually been improved. Anyway, now we move on to the value for money. And this is a difficult category to rank, as both of these cubes are the exact same price if you are going for the highest spec version of each. This means that, considering the features on both are pretty similar, with you getting some things on one that you don't on the other and vice versa, there is not a distinct answer as to which one is better value for money. But if you look at the other variants of these two cubes, you can see that Moyu offers 3 cheaper versions of the V11, whilst the Tornado only has one other version which is still quite expensive. And for that reason, I would say that neither of the top variants of these two cubes are better value than the other one, but as we look at the cheaper versions, Moyu has better value for money on the V11 lineup as a whole. So that means it's all tied up as we go into the final round, which is of course performance. And let's begin with the WRM V11. This cube has a much softer feeling in comparison to the previous Weilongs like the V10 and V9, but this is still combined with the relatively fast and smooth turning that you can come to expect from Moyu. Which means you might be thinking, with this cube being soft, fast and smooth, surely it is incredibly uncontrollable. Well, that is not the case due to one thing, that being the ball core. This cube has some of the best stability I have ever tried on any 3x3, which means that the turning rarely feels out of control or difficult to maintain. The caveat to this though is that the corner cutting is therefore sacrificed as much more focus has been put on stability. This means that if you are someone who has turning which relies a little bit on flexibility because you are not very precise, then this cube may not be the best option. But in contrast, the Tornado version 4 is incredibly flexible, with it being able to cut larger angles than any other 3x3 I have tried. The result of this is that I can focus on turning as fast as possible rather than being as precise as possible, which for me results in somewhat faster executions, especially during the last layer, as this is very much algorithm orientated. On top of this, I think the adjustable magnets add a lot to the overall experience of this cube, as you can really fine tune this 3x3 to make sure it suits your style exactly. However, if you are someone who is naturally very precise with their turning and doesn't need to rely on the cube to align bad turns for you, then the flexibility of the Tornado might get in your way. This is because it can cause overshooting mistakes and lockups from a lack of control. So for all of those reasons, I would say that the cube that wins performance and the entire battle is the WRM V11. But what do you think? Do you agree with my ranking? Let me know in the comments. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.